But even for the fastest animal on land, speed is not enough. To be successful out here requires more than physical ability. It requires strategy.
We specifically recruited ultra runners for this project because these people are superhuman. I mean, these are people who are running 100 miles in a single race. You need somebody who can move quickly, somebody who can move light, somebody who can really just get deep in there, because that's where the Wolverines are.
My name is Jane. I am a scientist studying snow. I dig a lot of big holes and collect snow to find out why it melts faster in some places than others.
It looks as though they flip their wings at the shoulder. But their arm bones are so tiny compared to other birds. Their wings are more like giant hands, able to rotate from a flexible wrist. Back and forth, they scull the air as though treading water, hovering almost indefinitely.
But here's something else I learned. Plastic is so different than any other material, it actually confuses Mother Nature. Most of the time, when you throw away something like an apple, there are organisms that start to eat away at it. That's called decomposition. The apple turns brown, and in several days it will be gone. But plastic? Nature doesn't understand plastic. Organisms look at its man-made structure and don't know what to do, so they go somewhere else to eat.
Our purpose was to immerse into the wild character, the rugged temperament of the place, and bring it back to share with others. We wanted to pull in a new tide of advocates and stewards, a loud chorus of voices to help push towards wilderness designation.
This flat, this is all dead reef flat. This is all dead elkhorn coral. You can see all the skeletons in place, but there's nothing alive. So this is what the reef looked like in 1971. This is all covered with living corals. This is very typical, very, very typical of the Florida Keys. And 50 years ago, that wasn't the case. 30 years ago, that wasn't the case. All of it gone.
Phil told me that we've lost 80 to 90% of corals in Florida. I had no idea that these issues were so advanced.
I can still remember the hair on the back of my neck standing up, and this wave of relief washed over me because I was no longer afraid. I mean, how could I be? I was surrounded by stars.
When a starfish gets sick, a few things happen. The first thing is it starts to get a few little white lesions, and then they begin to sort of twist and contort their arms a little bit. As things get really bad, they will start to lose their arms. When an arm detaches, it can actually crawl around for a little while, and then another arm will fall off, and that'll crawl off in a different direction, and eventually the rest of the animal dissolves into white goo. I was actually unprepared for the emotional impact that it would have on me because I've studied sea stars for over a decade, and they're really cool, but they don't really engage you like a puppy would. But when I got to a shoreline where they were just melting right in front of me, I was like, oh, these are my buddies. I don't want to see them suffer this horrible fate.
Cubs and domestic kittens are driven to keep playing by dopamine, which is constantly released in their brains. It's the same chemical that gives humans a euphoric feeling after intense exercise. They'll spend almost every waking moment mastering their skills and instincts because cats have to grow up fast.
Surprisingly, many of these discoveries have come from an Australian. He fell in love with giraffes and has raised his family here in Africa.
You have to love something so big and weird and sort of, out there. They're so funky looking. They don't make sense.
Drenched in early morning dew, the silhouettes of twisted trees keep silent watch. Ghostly shapes move in the mist, and strange, haunting cries fill the air. These are the moors, a wilderness unlike any other.
For me, the most interesting thing in nature is symbiosis. Two separate organisms that have adapted to each other and are now benefiting each other. They're working together, and the first thing that comes to my mind is an anemone and a clownfish. The anemone provides protection for the clownfish, and the clownfish usually provides food for the anemone. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. In the case of a coral, it goes deeper than that. The symbiont itself is incorporated in the organism. The coral doesn't exist without these little tiny plant cells. They are completely reliant on each other, and you don't have one without the other. That relationship between the two of them is the most interesting thing in the world to me.